Hello everybody, this is Roger, and today Margot James, our local MP, has come in to see us again. So firstly I'd like to say thank you, Margot, for taking time out from Westminster to come up to see us.
Thanks very much, Roger. Well, I'm always here up in Stourbridge at the end of the week. So yes, I'm very glad to be back at the Black Country Talking magazine and newspaper.
Now, Margot, when you came in last, I think it was before Christmas, you said that you were looking forward to going on holiday to Burma. Did that occur?
Yes, it did. I went for New Year. I went immediately after Christmas, and I think we were away for about 2 weeks, and it was the most wonderful holiday and a fascinating country. And I really hope that I'll have the opportunity to go back there someday.
Was it something that you'd planned a tour of yourself, or was it an organised thing?
No, I mean it's not an easy country at the moment to direct your own tour, as it were. So it was a little bit of both. We did our own research, but we also had some help from a tour operator who had offices out there. So it was a bit of both, really, Roger. We went to 4 or 5 different parts of Burma, and it's a big country, so that involved quite a few internal flights and one quite long ride on a boat. And that way we managed to see quite a bit of the country. So did you go into Rangoon? Yes. In fact, that was our first stop. You can't fly at the moment direct to Burma. So we flew via Thailand. So we flew into Bangkok, and then we had a connecting flight, which is just over an hour, about an hour and a half, into Rangoon. And that was our first couple of nights was in Rangoon, which is a fascinating city. It's beautiful. It's the old capital of Burma. And in fact, the government moved the capital about, I think, 5 years ago to we didn't actually get there. It's right in the middle of the country. It's very, very modern. And people refer to it as a very strange city because it's just been sort of built and plonked in the middle of nowhere. And that is now the capital with all the offices of state and courts and all the sort of architecture of the Burmese state is in this new capital. But Rangoon was the historic capital of the city, I think of the country.
Have they not changed the name back to... I mean, we changed all the names, didn't we, in our colonial days?
Yeah, well, actually, it is interesting. That is true, but what we try to do as colonialists is to adapt original names. And I gather Rangoon was so called because the British, when they came from India to colonise Burma, they went down the west side of the country through the Muslim state, what is now the Muslim state of Rakhine. And the Rakhine people have a different pronunciation, and although the local people called Rangoon something like Yangoon or something like that, but the tribespeople in the Muslim area were not able to say pronounce the letter Y, and so they would say Rangoon or something like that. So basically, the British tried to copy that, and that's how it became Rangoon. And you remark on something which is a very strange aspect of visiting Burma, which is this slight identity crisis it's got, that the name of Rangoon is now Yangon officially, but the lady, as she's known, Aung San Suu Kyi, she still calls it Rangoon. She still calls the country Burma, and she basically asks other people to do that because she says that the city name of Yangon is something that the Burmese military rulers have decreed without any consultation with anybody else, and they've got no right to do that. So there is a slight confusion over the name.
Is the new centre that you talk about totally modern?
Yes, I gather so. I didn't actually go there, but
sorry.
It is totally modern. Yes, absolutely modern. Built, this century, I think.
I imagine Rangoon. I've been to the
Rangoon itself is an old city. Yeah. It's beautiful.
Is that still lots of old colonial remnants?
Yes, it is. Yes. I mean, it's not as grand as, say, Delhi. And what I imagine, I've not been to sort of what we call Bombay, but it's not as grand as those Indian colonial buildings, but it does have a faded grandeur about some of the buildings in Rangoon, yes.
Did you get to see the golden temples and the like?
Yes.
I bet there was some...
Beautiful. It's unspeakably beautiful, some of it. I mean, there were two areas of... I mean, there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of temples in Burma. Probably the best place to see them is by taking a trip up the Irrawaddy River, which is the huge river that kind of divides Burma, coming down from the mountains in the north out to the sea at Rangoon. And it's a wonderful old city, which I think is one of the ancient capitals of the country that became Burma, Bagan. And that is an area where the previous rulers, in line with their Buddhist faith, decided at the end of their lives to build a temple, and that way they would, get a good place in the afterlife, as it were. And also they would, reconcile, at the end of their lives, some of the not so good deeds they'd done would hopefully be, settled by the building of this temple. And so there are literally thousands of temples on this plain right by the river Irrawaddy, and it is a beautiful sight.
Is the Irrawaddy where Mandalay is?
Yes, that was fascinating. I enjoyed my visit to Mandalay. That's basically, we went up the river from Rangoon up to Mandalay and passed through Bagan and stayed the night there on the boat. And the city of Mandalay, a lot of people say it's a bit of a disappointment because it's such a beautiful, evocative name, isn't it?
It is.
Full of Eastern promise and mystery. And actually, when you go up the river and you first enter Mandalay, it is rather beautiful. I mean, the temples that come on the side of the river are magnificent. And Mandalay itself is a nice old city, but even in the days of colonial empire, George Orwell wrote about it as being a bit of a disappointment. And I can see his point, but I'm glad I went there. There's a lot of history there as well.
Did you see, was it a city of the song? Did the dawn come up like thunder? And did you see the flying fishes?
How lovely. What lovely reminders. Yes, I mean, I can see why people wrote those things. I'm afraid I didn't actually see any of it myself, but...
It could have been poetic license then.
It wasn't as dramatic as Bagan, which we did have the benefit of seeing by balloon, which was lovely. They have this fabulous balloons at sunrise. And we booked one of those with a few other people, and that was beautiful. You had to get up quite early. I think we were up at about 4:45, and then we took a small ride to this place where the balloons take off from, and we were up in the air just as dawn was breaking, and then you see the temples with the sunrise behind them, and it really is spectacular from above.
That sounds fabulous.
Yeah.
Was it much of a flight? Did it take long?
It was over an hour. Yeah, so it was the only time I've ever been in a balloon, actually. So it was an experience, of its own for me. Never been in a balloon before. No,
something I've always fancied.
It's lovely.
Was the gondola open?
Yes. It's like a big basket. Yeah. You feel very safe, but you are in this big basket which comes up to your shoulders, and it's takeoff and landing procedures and all of this. But you can stand up and take pictures with your camera and everything. It's a wonderful way to see the temples.
It must have been quite a comfortable flight as well from the altitude. Not hot or
not too
steamy.
high, not too hot because of the time of day. It would have been hotter later.
Yeah.
But it was perfect temperature at sunrise.
And I don't suppose you took any photographs? Or...
Oh, I did.
I'm teasing.
Yes, of course. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I managed to take some good pictures, actually. It's wonderful.
That's great.
One other thing which is really worth mentioning was the visit to the most beautiful lake, which is in the middle of Burma. And they have a very unique way of life on this lake. People live on the lake in sort of huts that are built on stilts above the lake. They farm on the lake. It's quite extraordinary. It's enormous. Lake Inler, it's called. And it's enormous. And they have their market gardens. They basically dredge silt and growth all the time from the shores and replenish the raised sort of beds in the kind of marshy areas of the lake. And they grow vegetables, fruit, flowers.
Wow.
It's incredible, and it's so beautiful. Unbelievable.
I thought you were going to say they farm the lake for fish and
I think they do that too,
Yeah.
definitely. And they have a very odd, well, it's their way, but it's very interesting to look at. It looks impossible. They have these very long, thin boats, almost like a gondola in Venice, at that sort of size, although not ornate at all, very simple. And they have and the man, and it's always men, who oar this vessel. He has an oar, and he stands. He uses his one foot to steer in the water, and like as an additional rudder, and he stands with his other foot, and he's got his oar, and it's quite unique. It's quite a spectacle.
Oh, well,
It's fascinating.
I've not heard.
And then, of course, I mustn't finish by saying they have the most beautiful beaches because they're very, very unspoiled. And like if you can imagine the sea, the Andaman, I don't think it's the Andaman Sea, I'm sorry, I forgot the name of the sea, but it's across from India. I think it must be the Bay of Bengal, actually. I think it's the Bay of Bengal, and it goes up the whole Burmese coast, up the state of Rakhine, and the beaches are unspoiled and utterly beautiful. And the tourism is like 30 years behind Thailand, so it's a beautiful time to see. Sadly, the country is still deeply troubled. It's improved on its horrendous past. There is an element of democracy there now, but it's only an element. And there is still a lot of oppression. And I did try to speak to people, and I did go out in the state of Rakhine, which is where it's at its worst, and try to talk to people. But people were scared, really, to speak. And it was, you do feel slightly uncomfortable going on holiday, enjoying yourself in a country where people really still are not free. Although, it is a lot better than it was.
Yeah, I don't think you can go on holiday, Margot, and take your work with you. You need to go on holiday to have holiday.
I did actually have a couple of meetings while I was there on
I
trade
thought you
business.
might.
Yes, because trade is important. And at the time, I had a job in Parliament working directly for the Trade Minister. So I did go to see the Foreign Office in Rangoon and got a good insight into opportunities for British business.
Finally, what do you think about our Black Country Day?
Oh, I thought it was such a great day this year. And I'm so glad that, and I really take my hat off to everybody involved in making the Black Country Day something that we celebrate, something active, not just a date in the calendar like I think it was last year.
Yeah.
And it was on a Monday, so I did my celebrating over the weekend before because obviously I had to be in Parliament on Monday. But I think the best event I attended was actually up in Dudley Town Centre at the market. They had a really lovely stage with bands. They had a band from Stourbridge. The Stourbridge Jam were performing when I was there. And they had a wonderful old bus and a lot of old exhibits. Very interesting.
It's going to be
and I thought it
ongoing.
was a really great day, and I'm right behind it.
I think it's going to go on and on and on. It's growing.
Yes,
it really
I
is
think so
growing
too.
tremendously.
I absolutely think so.
I think it's taken the top off somewhat of a silent majority, really.
Yes, absolutely. I quite agree with you. It's really great, and we've got lots to celebrate going forward with the return of some manufacturing from the Far East now.
Yeah.
Every business I go to over in Lye, all our engineering companies are doing really, really well. It's great, and we have a lot to celebrate.
Yeah, with a flag.
Absolutely.
Well, Margot, we're going to have to sign off, I'm afraid. Thank you so much for coming in. I could sit here all day listening to
Well,
you.
thank you, Roger. It's a real pleasure. And I just want to say, how much of a pleasure it is to talk to so many people who have a visual impairment. And I really hope they've enjoyed my contribution this morning. You can always get in touch with me at my office in Stourbridge if anybody's ever got any issues that they want to give me their opinion about or help that they need from their MP, contact Margot James in the Stourbridge office.
OK, great. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you. Goodbye.